For most of my life, when somebody said Qualcomm, I thought one thing: phones. The chip inside your Android, the modem that quietly handles your calls, the thing nobody talks about but pretty much everybody uses. So when I tell you that this exact company just walked straight into the biggest, nastiest, most expensive fight in tech right now, the AI data center war, you might think I'm exaggerating. I promise you I'm not. On June 24th, at its Investor Day in Manhattan, Qualcomm basically declared that it wants a seat at the table Nvidia has owned for years. And before I dig into why this is a much bigger deal than it sounds, do me one quick favor and tap that subscribe button, because I'm covering every twist in this AI chip war as it actually happens, and you really don't want to miss what comes next. Trust me, this story is just getting started. Okay, let me explain what actually went down, because the details are kind of wild. So Qualcomm rolled out a whole new product family called Dragonfly. And I want to stress this part because people keep getting it wrong. This is not one chip. Qualcomm didn't show up with a single product and a prayer. They showed up with an entire portfolio. There's the Dragonfly C1000, which is a server CPU. There are AI accelerators, the AI 200, the AI 250, and a brand new one called the AI 300. There's a memory technology they're calling high bandwidth compute, or HBC, and there's networking and custom silicon stacked on top of all that. The C1000 is the headliner. It's a chiplet design with more than 250 cores. It uses the newest PCIe Gen 7 connectivity, and Qualcomm claims it delivers more than twice the performance per watt compared to competing server CPUs. That last number is the one that made me sit up straight, because in a data center, power is everything. Every watt you save is money you keep, and at the scale these places run, a little more efficient turns into millions of dollars very, very fast. Their data center boss, Tony Pialis, put it bluntly. He said traditional infrastructure simply won't scale to what agentic AI demands, and that the industry needs a real paradigm shift. Bold words. But here's the thing, I actually kind of agree with the framing, and I'll get to exactly why in a minute. The customers that make this real now, anybody can announce a chip. What separates a real contender from a glossy press release is whether anyone actually agreed to buy the thing. And this is where Qualcomm genuinely surprised me. Meta signed on. Mark Zuckerberg showed up at the event and confirmed a multi-generation agreement for Qualcomm to supply CPUs for Meta's next-generation server fleet. The C1000 is expected to hit production around 2028. And Meta committed to deploying it. Zuckerberg even tied the deal to his whole personal superintelligence pitch, which tells you he is not treating this as some little side experiment. Then there's Microsoft. Satya Nadella endorsed Qualcomm's HBC memory architecture, and Azure has been tapped as an early adopter, with that technology slated to land around mid-2027. Now, to be fair, Microsoft stopped short of announcing a full commercial deployment, so I'm keeping my expectations measured there. But an endorsement from the guy running Azure is not nothing. And the one that really caught my eye, Humain, the Saudi AI company, committed to deploying 200 megawatts of Qualcomm accelerator racks. 200 megawatts. That isn't a pilot project, that's power plant scale. Qualcomm also said it locked in 2 custom silicon deals with hyperscalers that should start generating revenue before the end of this year. So no, this isn't vaporware. There are names, dates, and dollar figures attached, and that matters way more to me than any spec sheet ever could. Going straight at Nvidia's moat. Here's the part I think is the smartest play in the whole announcement, and almost nobody outside the industry is talking about it. On the very same day, Qualcomm announced it's buying a software company called Modular for around $3.9 billion, all in stock. To understand why that matters, you have to understand Nvidia's real secret weapon. It's not just the hardware, it's a software platform called CUDA. For years, developers have written their AI programs on CUDA, and once you've built everything around it, switching to another company's chips means rewriting your code from the ground up. That lock-in is Nvidia's moat. It's the reason people stick around even when alternatives exist. Modular makes software that lets AI models run across all kinds of chips without rewriting everything for each one, and Qualcomm is openly calling it their answer to CUDA. Pialis had this great line about wanting to open up the industry by building bridges instead of building moats. And honestly, that's a clever angle. Going toe-to-toe with Nvidia's hardware is brutally hard, but chipping away at the software lock-in, giving developers a real way out, that's how you actually crack the door open. I genuinely think this acquisition might end up mattering more than any single chip they showed off. Show me the numbers. Let's talk money because Qualcomm put some big numbers on the board. They're targeting more than $15 billion in data center revenue by fiscal 2029. For context, they expect only around $300 million from data centers this fiscal year, scaling to about $5 billion by fiscal 2027. So that $15 billion figure is a steep, steep climb. Zoom out, and the company raised its total non-handset revenue target to $40 billion by 2029. That's roughly double what they were guiding 2 years ago. CEO Cristiano Amon went even bigger picture. He thinks the data center chip market could top $1 trillion by 2029, and he wants Qualcomm to grab more than 5% of it. The whole point of all this is to stop leaning so hard on smartphones. Under these forecasts, handsets would shrink to about a third of the company's chip revenue. For a company that was basically synonymous with phones, that's a massive identity shift. Wall Street liked what it heard, at least at first. Qualcomm's stock jumped as much as 15% in extended trading right after the announcement. Now, in fairness, most of those gains faded by Friday when a broader NASDAQ sell-off dragged tech stocks down with it. But that initial pop tells you investors are taking this very seriously. A crowded, brutal room. Now, I'd be doing you a disservice if I painted this as some sure thing, because the room Qualcomm just walked into is absolutely packed. Nvidia is the giant, and it's not standing still. It's got the hardware-led, the CUDA mode I just mentioned, and it keeps expanding into CPUs, networking, and full rack systems. AMD is pushing its own Helios rack server. Intel is in the mix, too. And then there's the really tricky part. A lot of Qualcomm's potential customers are also their competitors. Amazon, Google, and Microsoft are all building their own AI chips in-house. Meta builds its own silicon too, even while signing the CPU deal. OpenAI announced its first custom chip with Broadcom, so Qualcomm is trying to sell chips to companies that are simultaneously trying to make their own. That's a strange tightrope to walk. When reporters asked Amon whether Qualcomm is showing up too late to this party, he pushed back hard. He said the thing to focus on is scale, execution, and engineering capability, and the CFO made a fair point too, that Qualcomm already does business with nearly every hyperscaler through its existing chips. So these aren't cold introductions, they're existing relationships. Do I think it'll be easy? Absolutely not. Unseating an entrenched leader almost never is. But here's my honest take, why I'm actually optimistic. Here's why I'm genuinely optimistic about this, and not in a wishy-washy, wouldn't it be nice way. Qualcomm isn't some random startup throwing chips at a wall. This is a company that spent decades obsessing over one very specific problem, squeezing maximum performance out of minimum power, because that's exactly what phones demand. And it just so happens that performance per watt is becoming the single most important thing in AI data centers. The workloads are shifting toward inference and agentic AI, where efficiency matters more than raw brute force. Qualcomm's entire engineering DNA was basically built for this exact moment. That's not luck. That's a company finally pointing 30 years of hard-won expertise at the perfect target. Add in real customers like Meta, a smart software play with Modular, and a market growing so fast there's honestly room for more than one winner, and I think Qualcomm has a legitimate shot. Not a guaranteed win, a legitimate shot. And in a field this dominated by one player, just being a credible second option is worth billions. So that's where things stand. Qualcomm has officially entered the AI data center war, and it came in swinging with a full strategy, not just a single chip. I think it's one of the boldest reinventions we've seen from a major tech company in years, and I'm honestly excited to watch it play out. If you found this breakdown useful, do me a favor and smash that like button, because it genuinely helps the channel more than you'd think. And if you want me to keep tracking this whole fight, the next moves from Nvidia, AMD, and everyone else swinging for the data center crown, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss it. I read every single comment, so tell me down below. Do you think Qualcomm can actually pull this off? I'll see you in the next one.